I was planning my graduation celebration. My fiancé tried to break up with me the night before. Then, 3 days later, he told me the real problem was that I couldn't take accountability. I'm 27. My fiancé, Derek, is 29. We had been together for almost 3 years. From the outside, we looked solid. Good jobs, nice apartment, wedding planned for next spring. Most people thought we were one of those couples who had everything figured out. They didn't see what happened whenever I disagreed with him. Derek had one favorite word: accountability. Everything came back to accountability. If I forgot something, it was accountability. If I disagreed with him, it was accountability. If I defended myself, it was accountability. At first, I thought he was trying to help me grow. Eventually, I realized accountability only seemed to apply to me, never him. A few months ago, I started applying for a competitive fellowship. It wasn't the highest paying option in my field, but it was something I had wanted for years. I spent evenings working on applications, research, presentations, interviews. I was excited. Derek wasn't. He thought I should focus on higher paying positions. Every conversation became about money. He would show me salary numbers, compare cities, compare bonuses, compare retirement projections. One night, he looked at me and said, "You are too smart to make poor financial decisions." I said, "My career isn't only about money." He laughed. Actually laughed. Then said, "That's what people say before they regret their choices." I should have paid more attention to that moment, because after that, every discussion became a lecture, not a conversation. A lecture. If I mentioned an interview, he would explain why another job paid more. If I talked about work-life balance, he would explain why I wasn't thinking long-term. If I got excited, he would find a reason to criticize it. Then he would tell me he was helping. Whenever I pushed back, he said the same thing. "You hate accountability." At some point, I started apologizing just to end arguments. Not because I agreed, because I was tired. Around the same time, my grandmother became seriously ill. She practically raised me. I spent weekends helping her, driving her to appointments, cleaning her house, making sure she ate. I was stressed all the time. Derek knew that. The week before my graduation celebration was especially bad. My grandmother had another hospital stay. I was exhausted, emotionally and physically. One night, I asked Derek a simple question. I asked if he still seemed excited about marrying me. That was it. That was the entire question. He was sitting on the couch, staring at his phone, barely speaking to me, for days. I finally asked. He looked annoyed. Then he said, "Honestly, sometimes I think you'll always need reassurance." I said, "What does that mean?" He shrugged. Then said, "Maybe we're not compatible." Just like that. 3 years together, wedding planned, graduation the next morning, and suddenly he wanted to discuss breaking up. I stared at him. I honestly thought he was joking. He wasn't. He started listing reasons. I was emotional. I needed reassurance. I questioned him too much. I didn't take advice. I didn't take accountability. I said, "Why are you doing this now?" He said, "Because it's true." I said, "My graduation is tomorrow." He shrugged again. That part still makes me angry. I cried. He sat there, calm, detached, like he was discussing the weather. At one point I asked, "Do you even want to be with me?" He said, "I don't know." That sentence broke something, not because he said it, because of how easily he said it. I canceled dinner plans with my friends, spent the night crying. Then around midnight, he suddenly changed. He came into the bedroom, sat beside me, and said, "I don't want to lose you." Just hours earlier, he wasn't sure he wanted the relationship. Now he wanted everything fixed. Immediately. He hugged me, told me he loved me, told me he wanted a future together, then asked if we could move on. The next day was my graduation. Everyone thought I was happy. I wasn't. I couldn't stop thinking about what happened. Because once someone tells you they don't know if they want you anymore, you can't unhear it. For a few weeks, I tried to act normal. Then another argument happened. This time about a job offer. A recruiter contacted me. I mentioned it casually. Derek immediately started criticizing my response. He said I should have negotiated differently, applied sooner, asked for more, done more, always more. I finally snapped. I said, "Why are you always talking to me like I'm failing?" He looked genuinely offended, then said, "Because nobody else holds you accountable." I laughed, not because it was funny, because I couldn't believe he actually said it. I said, "I pay my bills. I have a career. I help my grandmother. I planned most of this wedding. What exactly am I failing at?" His answer changed everything. He said, "You keep making excuses instead of admitting you're wrong." That was the turning point, because suddenly I realized the pattern. Every disagreement ended the same way. His opinion became fact. My opinion became an excuse. If I explained myself, I was being defensive. If I disagreed, I lacked accountability. If I got upset, I was emotional. But if he insulted me, that was honesty. If he hurt me, that was tough love. If he threatened to leave, that was communication. The double standard became impossible to ignore. A few days later, we met friends for dinner. One of them asked how wedding planning was going. I joked that Derek was the finance department. Everyone laughed. Derek didn't. On the drive home, he said I embarrassed him. I asked how. He said, "You make me sound controlling." I almost couldn't believe it. I said, "Then stop controlling everything." That started the biggest fight we've ever had. He said I was ungrateful. I said he was condescending. He said I couldn't take criticism. I said criticism isn't the same thing as respect. Then he said something that I still can't forget. He said, "Maybe if you listened to me more, your life would be easier." That was it. That was the moment. The moment where everything became obvious. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a student. Someone who accepted every judgment, every correction, every lecture, without questioning him. The next morning, I called my sister. I told her everything. The breakup threat, the accountability speeches, the constant criticism, all of it. When I finished talking, she was quiet for a few seconds. Then she asked, "When was the last time he admitted he was wrong?" I couldn't answer, not immediately, because I honestly couldn't remember. That scared me more than anything. Update 1. The wedding is postponed, not canceled. Postponed, at least for now. Derek says I'm overreacting. He says every couple has problems. Maybe. But not every couple has one person constantly proving themselves to the other. Update 2. He keeps asking why I'm pulling away. I told him the truth. I said, "You tried to leave when I needed support the most." He says that isn't fair. I think it's exactly fair. Update 3. We started discussing counseling. Part of me wants to try. Part of me wonders why I'm fighting so hard for someone who keeps telling me everything wrong is my fault. At some point, accountability became a weapon instead of a value. And once I realized that, I stopped seeing our arguments the same way. Maybe we'll fix this. Maybe we won't. But I know one thing now. A relationship can't work when one person is always the judge and the other person is always the defendant. And honestly, I still don't know whether he wanted to break up that night, or if he just wanted me scared enough to stop disagreeing with him.